So I would like to bring up our next award presenter. Our next award, the Champion of Hope in Collaboration in Science and Technology, will be presented by Dr. Marc Reidl, Clinical Director of the U.S. HAEA Angioedema Center at the University of California in San Diego. Please help me welcome Dr. Reidl to the stage.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for including me in this wonderful program. I'm obviously not Dr. Steve Groft, who I think many of you were expecting to give this award. Steve, of course, is the former head of the NIH Office of Rare Diseases. I'm certainly much less accomplished than he is, a little less gray also. But I was asked to fill in for him due to an unfortunate family emergency that he had, and I know he's very disappointed that he wasn't able to be here and present this important award. So as you heard, I'm a professor of medicine at UCSD down the road, and I also serve as the clinical director of an angioedema center. And in that capacity, I spend a lot of my time meeting with and working with people with rare medical conditions. But I also direct an active clinical and translational research program and collaborate with national and international academic centers and patient advocacy groups. And I tell you that only to say that based on my experience in those efforts, this next award holds really tremendous significance. Meaningful medical research collaboration between groups and institutions is not an easy task. Historically, the grant funding process and the recognition of scientific achievement has often favored and rewarded individual laboratory efforts, and it's encouraged, in my opinion, a siloed approach to research. In science and medicine, it's often difficult for the best and the brightest to have a shared common vision for carrying out a research plan. I know that comes to a shock to some of us, but I believe that to be true. And even when that happens, if you can get people on the same page, there's often institutional and regulatory barriers that can derail efficient, productive collaborations. Things are, of course, changing rapidly with our recognition that in this era of accelerating technology and big data, much of which we've heard about today, that we can certainly accomplish more collectively than individually by sharing our data and our insights. And that realization that cooperative and collaborative efforts between patients and physicians, between families and scientists, has led to some unprecedented partnerships between patient advocacy groups, private foundations, industry, government agencies, and research institutions. But this isn't an easy task. It's necessary, but it's not easy. So tonight we're honoring researchers who are being recognized for their collaborative work with several patient communities to help advance research for Niemann-Pick type C. This collaboration includes 4 researchers based at 3 different institutions and 5 family foundations, all focused on Niemann-Pick. When this collaboration came to fruition, I can imagine it was met with some criticism. The scientific community often doubts that competing laboratories would share their sensitive data across institutions, and perhaps question whether this effort would really be feasible and productive. But I'm very pleased to report that this group, I'm told, has in fact at least 12 different research projects in the works, and their collaborative model has become the one that's been replicated by many other research efforts now in rare diseases. Their numerous accomplishments to date include preclinical work that's brought a promising therapeutic to human clinical trials, and the early results on that therapeutic suggest that this compound slows disease progression. Their ongoing efforts include testing of other promising compounds and developing biomarkers and outcome measures for future clinical trials. And it's important to note that they've advanced the scientific knowledge and the clinical applicability of these items much faster than would otherwise be possible through this collaboration. So this collaborative award reflects all that the Champions of Hope Collaborations in Science Award was designed to honor: innovative collaboration, patient participation, showcasing quantifiable progress towards treatments for Niemann-Pick type C, and all while creating a model that others can adopt for success. So it's my great honor to welcome to the stage Dr. Stephen Walkley from Albert Einstein College of Medicine, Dr. Daniel Ori from Washington University, Dr. Charles Vite from the University of Pennsylvania, and Dr. Cristin Davidson from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. As they walk to the stage, I'd also like to recognize the family foundations that were drivers of this collaboration. The Hide and Seek Foundation for Lysosomal Disease Research, Dana's Angels Research Trust, Race for Adam, Hadley Hope, and Vite NPC. Please join me in congratulating the recipients of the Rare Champions of Hope Collaborations and Advocacy.
Mark, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. We are deeply honored to be recognized this evening by Global Genes, an organization that is supporting such important work in this rare disease community. In accepting the award, on behalf of the scientists and families that have come together to create SOAR-NPC, I want first to recognize that this has been a team effort. Many of the team members are with me tonight. Scientist Steve Walkley, Charles Vite, Cristin Davidson, and also NPC parent, Jonathan Jacoby. We owe a tremendous debt of gratitude as well to the advisory board members that over the years have given freely of their time to help guide us. This includes Liz Neufeld, who's in the audience tonight, Bill Gall, Bill Sly, and also John Curd. The disease that brought this team together is Niemann-Pick type C. It's a rare progressive neurodegenerative disease, and it's one of more than 70 lysosomal diseases. The disease is caused by storage of cholesterol in tissues, and it often manifests itself in infancy, and it progresses in childhood to impairment of motor and intellectual function. And individuals with this disease often succumb to the disease by adolescence. A frustrating aspect of the disease is that it's very difficult to diagnose, even for experienced clinicians, and delays of more than 5 years are very common. There are few treatment options, and there are no FDA-approved therapies. SOAR-NPC was conceived jointly 8 years ago by NPC parents and researchers as a small group of highly interactive scientists whose primary goal was to develop a therapy that would significantly delay the progression of the disease. The collaborative character of SOAR-NPC extended to the families as well. They pooled their resources from individual foundations to support SOAR-NPC research. And together, we've made huge strides in improving the diagnosis and the treatment of NPC disease. SOAR-NPC Labs developed a lab test that can now diagnose NPC in a few hours with greater accuracy than the test formerly that took 3 months. The assay has been implemented in more than 36 laboratories worldwide on 5 continents, and it's now the standard way to diagnose this disease. In collaboration with the NIH Therapy for Rare and Neglected Diseases, SOAR-NPC scientists moved a promising drug that Marc referred to, cyclodextrin, from the research lab to the clinic in a very short time. The phase 1/2 study of this drug is nearing completion, and the results have been very promising. This drug is now in phase 3 testing and is poised to become our first FDA-approved treatment. These accomplishments would not have been possible. Thank you. These accomplishments would not have been possible without the huge investment over the past 25 years in basic research by the Ara Parsegian Medical Research Foundation and also the National Niemann-Pick Disease Foundation. We're also indebted to SOAR-NPC's closest collaborator, Dr. Denny Porter at NIH, who has led the clinical trials and whose prescient decision to develop and perform a natural history study in NPC has provided normative data that was critical to the design of the clinical trials. Finally, SOAR-NPC would not have been possible without the patient advocates, the parents, the ones who provided the vision and the leadership to launch and sustain this effort, and the ones who brought to the collaborative the ever-present sense of urgency. Thank you, Global Genes, for this recognition.